Hey guys, today let's talk about Hemophilus. Hemophilus is a bacteria. Okay, few basic points about Hemophilus we'll discuss first. It is a non-motile organism. It does not like to move around. Okay, like it's a lazy person. It does not like to move around. It is a non-sporing organism. See, there are bacteria which will form the spores, right? In the when the environment is not right for them, they remain in a spore form. Okay, they remain in a spore form, and once the environment becomes right for them to grow, they come back to their normal state of bacteria. Okay, so this Hemophilus is not like that. I told you it is very lazy. So it is a non-sporing organism. It is a gram-negative organism, and when we do the oxidase test, it is oxidase positive. So these things you have to buy hard, guys. Nothing based on concepts. Okay. Let's start with Hemophilus influenzae. So under this Hemophilus, we have different kinds of Hemophilus bacteria. Today, let's limit ourselves to Hemophilus influenzae. Okay. What is the other name for Hemophilus influenzae? It is a Pfeiffer's bacillus. It is what, guys? Pfeiffer's bacillus. Now, how will you memorize it? See, here also you have got influenzae, that F sound is there, fa sound is there. Pfeiffer's also, that F sound is there, right? Now, main thing about this Hemophilus influenzae is that it requires factor 5 and factor 10 for its growth. Now, when I say factor 5 and factor 10, where is it located? See, our RBCs, when they are lysed, when they are broken down, they become very sad and release certain factors called factor 5 and factor 10. So basically these are the tears of a crying RBC. So once the RBC is broken down by Hemophilus influenzae, they release factor 5 and factor 10. Okay. H influenzae is of two types, invasive type and non-invasive type. It is of two types, guys. It is the invasive type and non-invasive type. Okay, let us see in detail about those two. Let's start with the non-invasive type of H influenzae. Okay, this column, the non-invasive type. Now, does this organism have a capsule? No, it does not have a capsule. What is the age group that it affects? Adults. So, the non-invasive type of H influenzae affects the adults. How will I memorize it? See, adults, as we grow up, most of us become mature, and then we do not invade into others' privacy. We are non-invasive. Okay, that is a code. Adults are non-invasive. Let's talk about the spread. The non-invasive type of H influenzae will cause a local spread of the infection. Suppose it affects a particular system. It does not go out of the system. You understood what I meant? It just affects locally. What about the blood culture? Suppose I want to take out or grow the organism in the blood culture. You cannot do that. How will you memorize it? I told you, as we become adults, most of them they don't like to show off, right? Like when we are in our 20s, teenagers, we dress up better. We like to show up, right, to the public, to our friends. But as we grow older, some of them just retract. Similarly, in blood culture, the non-invasive type, I told you it is seen in adults, and they do not like to show up, or they do not like to be seen on blood culture. Alright. Now, the infections it causes, the non-invasive type of H influenzae, what are the infections it causes? It causes otitis media, sinusitis, and exacerbation of COPD. Next, we'll move on to the invasive type of H influenzae. In the invasive type of H influenzae, it is capsulated, okay, and it occurs in children. This invasive type of H influenzae, it occurs in children. How will I memorize it? See, children are very curious, right? They always want to know everything. They invade. So, the invasive type, it is seen in children. The spread is blood. The spread of invasive type is via blood. Now, can I see the organism, if I do the culture, this invasive type of H influenzae, can I see it in blood culture? Yes, you can see, because children, I told you, they like to dress up, okay, they're very active. So remember that way, in blood culture also you get to see the invasive type. Okay, what are the infections it causes? It can affect the brain of the child, it can cause meningitis, it can affect the lungs of the child, leading to pneumonia, or it can even lead to sepsis. Let's talk about the diagnosis of H influenzae. We need to take the sample. Now, which sample do we take, guys? It depends upon the symptom of the patient. Okay, if the patient has got meningitis, you better take CSF sample. Okay, if the patient complains of sepsis, go for a blood sample. If the patient complains of pneumonia, take a sputum sample. So, the sample that you take depends upon the clinical feature of the patient. In microscopic examination, you get to see this, a gram negative cocoa bacilli. So the H influenzae is a gram negative cocoa bacilli. So you can see here very clearly, guys. So you can see the cocci, you can see the bacilli, right? And you know that any gram negative organism will be purple in color when you do the gram stain, right? Suppose I want to grow. Now let's talk about the culture. Okay, suppose I want to grow the organism in culture media. First option is I can grow it in a chocolate agar. I can grow it in a chocolate agar because this chocolate agar has got factor 5 and factor 10 in it. I told you H influenzae requires factor 5 and factor 10 for its growth. So chocolate agar has got these two factors. Yes, we can grow H influenzae in it. Suppose what if you have got only blood agar, guys? This is a blood agar picture that I show you here. Yes, you can grow H influenzae in blood agar also. But blood agar as such does not have factor 5 and factor 10, right? So I have to find a way where I can bring factor 5 and factor 10 into the blood agar, and then I'll put the sample of the patient. If the sample has got Hemophilus influenzae, it will grow in this culture media. Got it? Now what is the technique for it, guys? Okay, here comes a famous technique. It is called as, the phenomenon that we get at the end of the day is called as satellitism. Okay, I'll tell you what is it, guys. We take the blood agar, okay, and we draw a line of staph aureus. We have the staph aureus prepared in our lab, okay. So we draw a line of staph aureus onto the blood agar. What does a staph aureus do, guys? Does staph aureus like RBC? No, it hates RBC. It hates RBC. It will break the RBC. So blood agar is made up of RBCs only. I hope you all know that. Okay. So what does it do? The staph aureus will break the RBCs nearby. So in a narrow zone, okay, in a narrow zone, not the entire RBC, in the narrow zone, in and around the staph aureus, there will be RBC breakdown, which is called as what, guys? Hemolysis. So once we streak a line of staph aureus onto the blood agar, we get a narrow zone of hemolysis. This much clear? Now when this RBC is broken down, when RBCs are broken down, they release factor 5 and factor 10. So basically factor 5 and factor 10 are like the tears of RBCs, okay? So in this narrow zone of hemolysis, okay, in this area where hemolysis has occurred, there will be factor 5 and factor 10. Around this area where I have got the narrow zone of hemolysis, in this zone I will apply the patient's sample. So here I will apply the patient's sample here. Okay, suppose the patient sample has got H influenzae, what does it do? It will grow in this area. Can it grow in this area, guys? No, it cannot, because see, this area is what? It is normal RBC, and factor 5 and factor 10 will not be there in this area, right? Or in this area. only in this narrow zone of hemolysis you get to see factor 5 and factor 10. So if the patient sample, once we apply the patient sample here around the Staph aureus, if we see growth around it, it means that yes, Hemophilus influenzae has grown and the patient is positive for H. influenzae infection. This much clear? Now look at this picture, guys. See, this is a planet. Let's assume that it is Earth, and around the planet I can see a lot of satellites, right? Similarly, the H. influenzae is looking like a lot of satellites around Staph aureus, right? So the H. influenzae will grow around the Staph aureus in the narrow zone of hemolysis like the satellite around the Staph aureus, like a satellite. See, like the satellites orbiting the Earth, the H. influenzae will grow around the Staph aureus, and this phenomenon is called as satellitism, guys. Let me show you the picture. See, this is an actual picture, okay? This is a blood agar. This streak is what, guys? It is Staph aureus. Then I have applied the sample around the Staph aureus. Okay, sample of the patient. And you can see certain growth around the Staph aureus. Can you appreciate it? Just a moment. Can you appreciate the growth around the Staph aureus? Okay, so this growth is H. influenzae growth, right? Because H. influenzae can grow only in the presence of factor 5 and factor 10, and these are produced when Staph aureus will break down RBCs. Okay. Can you see another picture here? Same picture only, guys. See, this is a Staph aureus. Let me take another. Yeah. This is a Staph. This line is a Staph aureus that we have applied onto the blood agar, and around it, can you see these chota lines? See, can you appreciate them around the Staph aureus like the satellites orbiting the Earth? So these are the H. influenzae, and this phenomenon is called as satellitism. That's all about the topic, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.